Hello everyone, welcome to Gary Mac Studio. The image that you see up here right now is a painting that I just painted, and I've had several, and I made the frame for, and I wanted a dark colored frame because I thought it would match the dark colors in the painting, and it would show off the highlight. So it's just a black frame, and I want several people have asked me how I made the frame. So this tutorial is, excuse me, is about how I made the frame. And I'm going to go from going down to the lumber yards where I buy my hardwood, and I'll give a little tour of that place, and then we'll come back to the shop with the materials, and we'll break it all down and machine it. And it's really simple. And everything's done on the table saw. There's no router or shaper involved. It's all just done on the table saw, and it makes a very beautiful, contemporary, beautiful frame. So you guys hang in there, and hey, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and I'll teach you how to make a frame, or how I make a frame, and it worked real good. So y'all. Please watch from beginning to end, because it sure does help my my algorithm. So hang in there, and here we go. Let's do this. Okay, we're heading over to Barney's right now. I just had to stop and greet some new neighbors that just moving in today. Well, Barney's not far from my house, just a few blocks. And I started buying materials from Barney in 1980. I opened up my own cabinet shop, and I used to buy lots and lots of material from him. I'd buy 1,000 to 2,000 board feet of lumber at a time from him, and I'd buy 100 to 200 sheets of plywood at a time from him. And the manufactured cabinets for custom homes, and they were upscale homes, usually from 3,000 square foot up to 12 or 15,000 square foot homes. And I quit. I sold out in the early 90s, around 91 or so. And I didn't do a whole lot for a while, and then I took a sales job at a remodeling construction company. And then I went to work in the oil industry in 2005. But old Barney down here, I've been buying hardwoods from him for, gosh, what, 80, 90, 110, 20, for 45 years. And I come down here pretty often, at least once a month, every 2 months, and pick up some supplies for my wood shop. So we'll just go into Barney's up here and look around and see what he's got. He doesn't have the variety that he used to, because these hardwoods are getting harder and harder to come by, and they're getting relatively expensive. So we'll just go in here to their lumber yard and pick out a board or two to make a frames with. So let's go see what he's got. And I'm gonna back right in here and See if he's got something I might need. How you doing? See this fella right? I'm gonna put you on a YouTube video.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, this fella right here, I've known him since 1980. I guess you've been working in here this long, haven't you?
Yeah, 27 years.
27 years. And he used to come out to my shop often with a load of plywood and lumber, and he still sells it to me today. That's white oak. That's some white oak. I was looking for some poplar. I need some 8/4 or 6/4. 6/4 poplar might work. For some who may not know, this lumber comes in quarters. Like 4/4 would be 1 inch. 8/4 would be 2 inches. So if 3/4 would be 3/4 of an inch. So that's how they scale it. There's some 8/4 poplar. Random width. So I want to pick some of this out right here. This is what I'm going to make those frames out of, because they're going to be dark. I'm going to do them in a dark color, so I'm not going to need anything really expensive. Okay, catch you later. Well, let's do a quick glance around Barney's yard here. Over here, is the plywood in that building. That building over there handles their rough stock, and then over here where I just came from is where they handle their mill stock. And then this is old Barney Hardwood. Been here a long time. Anyway, there we go. Okay, everybody, I'm back in the shop from Barney's, and I bought this one board of poplar. It's 8 foot long, 8 inches wide, and 1 3/4 inches thick. And this is what I'm going to make this frame out of for this picture. So we'll just see how this goes. Well, let's see if this thing will follow me around. All right, this board is 8 inches wide, 8 foot long. And I'm going to need 2 pieces to go on this. About 3 foot, maybe a little bit bigger. I'll make it a little bit bigger. I need a little bit to play with, or cut my miters with. And it's too big to put up here on my. It's too big to put up here on my. Miter saw, so I'll hack it off with skill saw. Wonder why that thing, you don't want to follow me around on. Got a little kickback on there. When you're ripping wood, it's notorious for warping, and it'll tend to pull together at the ends where you start ripping. So I have to drive a wedge in there to keep it separated so it won't bind up on the saw blade. And now I'll do a layout on the end of the wood to get my profile, how I want my frame to look. So I'm just going to draw off some angles, and it's simple. I'll show you in a moment how I come to the profile. And then in the end, it turned out really well. And then right here, I'm just cutting in a rabbet where where it will fit right against the picture itself, so the picture will go right into that area. Now then, I want to make these cuts. And that will pretty much be the frame. We'll see how it goes. So I set up the angle on the table saw to match that profile that you just saw. And this little saw, it's not an industrial saw. It's just a shop saw, a hobbyist type shop saw. And I started out to trying to make that full cut at one time, which was about 3 inches or so, and this little saw just wouldn't handle that load. So after I ripped into it for a little bit, I realized the saw wasn't going to handle that deep of a cut, so I had to crank it down and just make several passes and take a little bit at a time, which it worked out fine. Just took a little more time, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. And I bought this little saw on the internet from Facebook. The guy had it for sale, and it was in his shop, and he upgraded his to a bigger saw. But this one is my shop's not real big, and I can't have the big industrial saws like I had when I had my cabinet shop, which some of them had 3 to 5 horsepower motors on them. Well, this one, it's got about a horse and a half. But I sold all that stuff out, and now then it's just little hobby type tools, but they work, and you just got to learn how to use them and the properties of them. That's a big cut for my little saw. I'm going to have to do it in 2 or 3 passes. Okay, there's number 1. Well, let's see what this is going to look like. For a frame. I think it's going to look really well. It's going to be simple but effective, hopefully. pieces for the frame. Take these. And sand them all up and get them pretty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to turn my microphone on, so I'm just going to have to do a voice over from here on out. Right here, I'm measuring in to get the proper size for the picture, and the way I'm going to fasten this together is because I'm going to paint this. I'm going to drill some holes in this frame and use some screws to put it together, because there's no sense in doing a bunch of mortise and tenons and all of that stuff on it when I can do this, because it's just going to paint, and if there's any voids in or cracks or holes in anywhere in it, then I can just fill them, because I'm going to paint over it. I'm just going to take some black gesso and seal the whole frame, and then when the gesso is good and dry, I will put a clear varnish over it to protect the paint. And I've done this before with frames, and as I stated earlier, I didn't use any router on this. I just used my table saw, and actually it makes a very beautiful frame. And I've got another smaller frame that I've made using the off-fall pieces off of these, the waste cuts that I'd cut from these. I made a smaller frame to go on another picture that I'm going to give to a friend of mine that I'm going to give for a Christmas present. So right here, I'm just drilling a hole where I can put a plug in and sand over. Because, like I say, when I paint this, you're not going to see any of that. And I'm drilling these 4 holes, and the reason I'm doing it this way is because to set up and do the mortise and all the tenons or dowels or whatever it takes to put these things together. This is just a much simpler way. And what I will do when I get this all ready to screw together, I'll do a dry run. I'll put it all together with my drywall screws. And right here, I'm drilling a pilot hole from one piece to the other to get a positioning where the drywall screw will line up with the matching piece. And then like I say, I'm going to put it all together in a dry run and make sure that it's going to work with the canvas. And you can see right here how I lined that up and drill a pilot hole for the screw. So I drill a hole in it right there, and then I'll take these. Actually, they're not drywall screws; they're construction screws, which there is a difference. The construction screws, the threads on them are a little bit heavier, and than they are on drywall screws, and they are they're not as hard as drywall screws. Drywall screws are very hard and brittle, and they will break. To where these the carbon steel in these are not as brittle as drywall screws, and they will actually kind of flex, and you can see right there where I finished drilling that pilot hole. But these screws right here, they won't twist off as easy as those drywall screws will, because they're not as brittle, they're not as hard. So we'll put this together and make sure that it's going to fit the canvas. And then I will come back, I'll take it apart, and we'll glue all the joints and then reassemble. So you see it makes a nice pretty frame. Or I like it anyway. Some may not like it, but I like it. It's kind of it's a little bit contemporary, and then it's a little bit old-fashioned looking. So yeah, it fit good. Now I'll take it back apart and glue the joints, and then screw it back together, and then do a little bit of sanding and a little bit of filling with filler, and put the plugs in the in those holes where the drywall screws go in. Sand them up, and then I will gesso it over with some black paint. So you guys just hang in there and watch for a minute, and I'll put a little music on, and we'll just see what happens here. Okay, right here, I already had it in my mind. I wanted to paint this frame black because I think it would look good with the color schemes on that canvas. So I took a piece of that poplar and sanded it up a little bit, and I was going to do some test pieces on it with different stains just to see what it might look like. And what I did, and you'll see here in just a moment, I've got some stain that I made using steel wool and dissolved in vinegar. And vinegar, you can get it in a 5% acid, and that's usually what we use for pickling, like in your pickles and whatever, or cooking. But you can get that vinegar up to 30% acid, and that stuff is really, really harsh. And I use that a lot to clean the rust off of metal. You can take some of that 30% acidic vinegar and submerge some rusty steel in there and let it set for a few minutes. 30 minutes or so. It's sometimes all it'll take. Sometimes it takes longer, but let it set, and it will actually dissolve every bit of rust off of that metal. And then when you apply it to wood, it reacts to the chemicals in the wood. And here in a moment, I want to go through and show you. I'm sure you've heard of heartwood, and you've heard of sapwood. So I'm going to explain the difference in those in just a moment and give you an illustration. But right now, I'm put on these little cotton gloves, and then put those what do you call them? Anyway, they're plastic gloves over these cotton gloves, because if I don't, my hands sweat real bad inside of those. And with these little cotton inserts, my hands don't sweat. So I put these on, and it keeps my hands dry. And anyway, this all this solution of it's just steel wool dissolved in that vinegar, and I will rub it on, and we'll see what it does, because it reacts to different chemicals in different kinds of wood. Now this piece of wood right here, I want to show you the difference between heartwood and sapwood. This outer ring, that light outer ring, is what they call sapwood, and this is the living part of the tree. This is where the tree gets all of its nutrients, is around those outer edges. And the dark center part is what they call a heartwood. That part of the tree is dead. It's not growing at all. All it is there for is to support, like a framing on a house. It's just a support for everything around it. And as the tree grows, then that heartwood will grow with it. It'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. The tree will, those rings, those growth rings, one growth ring for every year, every 365 day cycles will have one of these growth rings. The growth rings will be for the climate change. In the summertime is when the spring and the summer is when the tree will grow. And then during the wintertime, it will slow down, and those fibers in the wood will be very close, tight together. And that's where you get those rings, those little dark rings around the edges. So on the inside, it's completely dead, what you're seeing right there. Now then, the color of the wood, now this is a piece of walnut. Then you'll notice the white sapwood, the live part of the tree. The heart of that, every tree has different needs. And every tree, like take a cherry for an instance, it's red, and this walnut, it's a dark brown. And then some trees are rust colored, like a western red cedar. They've got that sienna color. Well, every tree has to have a certain mineral to survive. Well, those minerals that are sucked up into that tree are actually what stains it. So that dark part in that walnut that you just saw was actually stained from the minerals that it absorbs from the ground. So I take some of this, I'm going to take some of this solution and put it on this piece of poplar to see how it may react. Now, this solution reacts really well with potassium. Trees that's got a lot of potassium in it will turn really dark. And different trees with different mineral stains on it, it will react differently. So I'm just going to see how, I wanted to see how this would react with this poplar, because I want to get a piece of cherry out of my storeroom back there, and I want to stain up that piece of cherry so you can see the same solution, how it stains on a different piece of wood. And on this cherry, and I've done it before on bowl turning, is use this stain on cherry, and it turns it a beautiful, beautiful dark brown color. But right now, I'm just going to apply a little bit onto this little block of cherry wood and show you Now see, it looks like you would put any kind of finish on it, but when that sits there and dries and reacts, it will turn visibly darker. You'll see here in just a moment. And I'll take a heat gun and dry it off here quickly, so you can get an idea of how that reacts. And it's just a fun thing. I've experimented with all kinds of stains, and you name it. I'll tell you another real pretty stain, and I wouldn't recommend it for anyone to use unless you absolutely know what you're doing. And that just take plain old tar, like a roof tar that you would put on your roof to keep it from leaking, and mix it down with a lacquer thinner or even gasoline, and it makes a beautiful, beautiful reddish brown stain. And you can put that on ash, and it's just gorgeous. I've built cabinets and used that stain before, and it's just gorgeous stain. So I've experimented with all kinds of stuff and all kinds of chemicals. So here, like I say, I forgot to turn my microphone on, so it's dead, and I'm having to do a voiceover, so you can see me pointing around and shaking, but basically saying the same thing I'm telling you right now. And all this video stuff is all new to me, and it just sometimes can be overwhelming. All the stuff you got to remember. So I'm going to take a heat gun and dry this off a little bit, and you can see how that chemical will react on that piece of cherry. Now, it didn't react on that piece of poplar. It pretty much stayed that same color, which it's a pretty color, but that's not the color that I want on my for my frame, because I think just a plain black frame will really make the image just shine, because of the dark colors in the trees and the very light colors in the snow. And so you can see that piece of cherry. See how it turned a black color? That was a chemical reaction from that iron oxide dissolved in that vinegar. Where the piece of poplar, it didn't change color much at all. There wasn't much of a reaction, because that's just basically the color of the solution, and it didn't do much. See, it didn't do much. Now, that would look pretty good, but I still think this black color that I'm showing right there for the frame would look a lot better. And so I'm going to sand this thing up, and then I'm going to put a coat of black gesso on it. And then after the gesso dries, and then I will put a sealer on it. So right here, I'm just take some black gesso, and I'm using a sponge brush. A sponge brush will put it on nice and smooth. And then after I get a good heavy coat of this black gesso, I will take a piece of, when it dries, I'll take a piece of steel wool and go over it, because these water-based paints like this gesso, when you put it on a piece of wood, that wood will absorb the moisture, and it will cause it to swell, and they call it raising the grain, and that's exactly what it does. It raises that grain up and makes it a rough surface. So when this dries, I will take a piece of 4/0 steel wool and go over and smooth out that rough texture, and then in the end, when all said and done, I will put a varnish, the same varnish over this that I put over my paintings to seal it off. And because it's gesso, when it dries, dust will stick to it really bad. Because like in my wood shop here, where you get a lot of dust, and you'll have it on your hands, and you can just touch it, and then it'll show fingerprints where you touched it with that sawdust on it. Here's the painting in the frame, and you can see how beautiful that black frame goes with that. And then I went later, after all said and done with this, I went in and added this horse and rider, and it just gave the painting a theme. And I am going to paint a black Labrador dog, kind of wandering around in front of the horse and rider, leading them along. And it's just to me, it's just a serene and beautiful painting. I love horses. Hey, you guys, please subscribe and hit the thumbs up and tell a friend. Come see me and drop me a message. Drop me a likes or dislikes, or you hate it or you love it. I sure would appreciate it, and I reply to everyone that sends me a message. All right, love y'all. Bye bye.